Hello and welcome to the Chip Chats podcast. I'm your host, Chip Midnight. I've been interviewing musicians for over 30 years and have had the chance to speak with hundreds and hundreds of artists, quite a few with names and songs that you are intimately familiar with. When people discover I do this, I'm often asked if there's anyone that I haven't interviewed that I'd say is on my bucket list, and for decades I've said the same two names, Ozzy Osbourne and The Police. There's something about those first bands that enter your life in your preteen years that stick with you throughout your life, and that's the case here. I suppose I've probably submitted an interview request here and there over the years for Ozzy, but those requests have gone unanswered, and considering his age and health conditions, I'm fairly certain that's a bucket list interview that will never happen. If you had asked me even earlier this year if I thought I'd have the chance to interview someone from The Police, I would have said, no way, not possible. But this summer, when Police drummer Stuart Copeland was making the rounds to discuss an album he released called Police Deranged, it gave me some encouragement to request interviews with both Stuart and Police guitarist Andy Summers. Much to my surprise and delight, my request to speak with Andy was granted, and I had the chance to spend 30-ish minutes talking to him on my birthday, believe it or not. Andy released a coffee table photography book called A Series of Glances earlier this summer, and to promote that release, put together the Cracked Lens and a Missing String tour, which is built as a fantastic evening with a brilliant practitioner of the guitar, camera, and written word. Before we get to the interview, I want to mention that Andy has dates through the end of 2023 that you can find on his website, andysummers.com, should you be so inclined to check out this mixed media performance. And now, crossing off a bucket list interview, here's my conversation with Andy Summers. Right off the bat, you've released a book of photographs, A Series of Glances, and it's sort of like the best of your photos. Is that accurate? Is that how it's being? It's a collection of photographs that other people have seen before.
That's one way of putting it, but I never like phrases like the best of because it's so finalized. I'm like, no,
Right.
man, I'm just getting started. It's some photographs, But of course, when you're compiling it, you're looking for, it's just I could, in my working world with the photography, I have a vast archive and it's very well organized. I have a big screen. I'm looking across the room there, 27-inch screen, and it's really dedicated only to the photography. So that's that one over there, the other computer, and I have it, in a search program so that I can find everything. I could make many different kinds of books out of it, but there was an offer to do a book, and I don't know what I actually used someone else's book as a what we call a maquette, so that there was a sort of, you can only make photography books so many ways. I'm very familiar. I've been staring at them for years, vertical to horizontals, fully bled, horizontal, vertical, so on and so forth. So I'm very used to the rhythm of doing it. And the way I did this book was I based it on a Robert Frank book called The Lines of My Hand, because I particularly liked that book of his for the layout. Obviously, my own photographs, not his, and and so on and so forth. And so it gives you a model to start with, and then you work out through it. And it took me 6 months to put this together. And you lay out a few pages, and don't look at it for a while, and come back. So very similar in a way to recording music, where I blah, 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 blah. Don't play it back. My technique as far as any of that goes, okay, I'll listen to it in a couple of days, and then you hear it, bam, real fresh. You go, okay, and I want to change that, and I want to change that, and this, and we've got to get a new ending. Similar with the photography, the layout, the way the pages and things like shapes, whatever they are, play off against, how much black you've got in against versus, lighter photo, so on and so forth. Some of it's sort of instinctive, and some of it is informed. And in this case, I had something to look at, which was more really about shapes, whether it's fully bled pages or balanced against, oblongs, profiles, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So it sounds like you have a lot of control over that. Is that more control than you have over recording stuff, or are you
Now, I
or
have
similar
total
hands-on?
control over recording because, as you might imagine, I have my own studio.
Yeah, yeah,
And I have a guy that I've worked with for many years who's very good, and is a musician and is very gifted technically. So I have a good setup, except it's all fallen apart this year. I think we're going to have to buy all new equipment because we had such heavy rain in LA earlier in the year that it kind of fucked up a lot of stuff. And we're just about to go on tour, which is going to go on to the end of the year, on and off. And I think after that, it's time to have a redo, as it were.
yeah, yeah.
But I'm in there at the moment, and we are recording because I'm putting stuff. These I don't know if you know what this tour is. This is a
Yeah.
solo,
Yep.
only me on stage, but I have a cinema screen and I project all sorts of crazy photography stuff, and that's what we're doing. And so it's a combination of tracks that I play to, and some actual solo guitar pieces. I do a whole Brazilian section, which is really solo guitar with one sort of little Brazilian drum, which is very nice. And I've added a little bit more Police into it now, so but my own versions.
Yeah.
But something happened, so I can really play the songs with the original backings. That's only just become available to us.
Yeah.
So that's sort of a tech breakthrough.
Yeah.
So I'm sort of in and out. I'm not really using the recording part of the studio, except that we bring something up and go add. It'd be really nice if I had a hi-hat just to hold the time there, because otherwise it's difficult for me to come back in if I'm on stage trying to hear it. They're little subtle things. Like I was playing something last night, and I'd done with a guitar quartet. It's a version of Roxanne. It's beautiful. Actually, it's on YouTube.
Yeah.
But I noticed live, and I got my guitar up, and if I can't hear the speaker, the time is a little bit weird. So I said, let's see if we can get it a little. So it makes it easy. I never miss them. So
Yeah,
these
yeah.
are subtle things, but the audience will never know.
Right. So I read your autobiography not too long ago.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me, so it doesn't seem like you were taking photographs as a young child, right? It was more once
Well,
you were in
I
the
think I
police.
was just like a normal person, like everybody had a camera. We had a
Yeah.
camera because I've got boxes of snaps, as we call them in England, of the family growing up and all that. Yeah, the cameras were around. My brother actually, who's older than me, I remember him getting a pretty nifty camera. I mean, he must have still been in his teens, but he had a kind of smart camera at the time. That was, I went, ooh, like some sort of magical device that he had.
Yeah.
But I didn't really get into it other than being, someone with a camera most of my life and doing that. But it was with the police
Yeah.
in New York, and in 1979 I suddenly thought, hey, I'm going to do photography, and I'm going to get really good at it. I just
Yeah.
sort of made a formal declaration to myself with no idea that I had necessarily any talent for it or anything, and whether it would even stick. I could have given it up 1 week later, but it didn't. I mean, I became completely addicted to it. So, and still am. So it's been a whole sort of sub career for me throughout the musical career.
Yeah. Are you
Yeah,
familiar with the band Blind Melon?
yeah, that
Um,
was a few years ago.
Quite, yeah, in the early 90s, kind of.
Yeah,
The singer was really into he had a video camera and filmed a lot of stuff,
yeah.
before we all had smartphones. I interviewed them back in the day, and I knew them pretty well, and I saw them a lot, and I don't remember ever seeing him pull out a camera, but he has hundreds of hours of footage. And so I was wondering, I know that when you take photography, like, outside of the police, it's
Mm.
different, and some of them are set up shots and some of them are candid shots. But with the police, were you always like, "Hey, let me grab my camera real quick," or were you trying to kinda keep it out of the scene and they didn't even know you were taking stuff, or was it intentional that you
Yeah,
would pull it
I'd
out?
say it was a combination of that because, once I got going on it, which it was pretty fast, I rarely took it off.
Yeah,
You
oh,
know,
yeah.
whatever we were practicing, rehearsing, turning up at the sound check, here was the camera. And it was was probably overdoing it a bit, but I was very compelled.
Yeah.
You know, I end up, lugging around, the typical early, big bag of lenses and cameras, too much shit. All you needed is one camera and a 50mm lens. But I carried a lot of stuff thinking that was the way to go. And of course, it got more sophisticated after a while, especially when I met Ralph Gibson, and he told me to get a Leica, and I did. And then I never looked back. I've never used anything other than a Leica ever since.
Yeah. So I'm an appreciator of photography, but I'm not a good photographer myself. And so what I was wondering, a lot of your picture, I think at least a lot of the pictures that I've seen are black and white. Is that an aesthetic? Do you like that? Is it
Well, yeah, that
help set
was
the
the
tone?
aesthetic. It's slowly changing out of that. I'm just about to go on tour, and
Yeah,
we'll be going out there for the rest of the year in the country. So, shall I shoot everything in color? Because you can always change it back. We're in the digital
sure.
domain now. I'm tempted to only shoot color.
Okay.
And now I never thought I would ever do that, because as I came into it, in the beginning when I started, I loved black and white photography, and
Yeah.
you looked at Cartier-Bresson and all this stuff, and it was so special. The truth of black and white. I mean, it always, yeah. Well, this is a big subject, but and color was sort of looked down on then. I mean, color sort of only started to arise as being taken seriously in about the early 70s.
Mm.
Not much before that. I mean, there was color around, and over the years, a few people have emerged that were taking great color photography, like Sal Leiter in New York, but there wasn't sort of talked about much. But gradually it has become serious, and now it is serious. But I still love black and white photography, and I think one of the reasons that emotionally that I got into it was because well, where did it come from? Because when I was 15, 16, 17, I was absolutely obsessed with going to see art house European films like Fellini and Godard and Agnes Varda, so on and so forth, all those kind of people, and Kurosawa, absolutely. And so I had a sort of emotional response to these, because when I was a kid growing up in rural England, it was another world, and it was like that was the world to me, and that was the education, like seeing all it's, when I'm watching those Kurosawa films, like you're seeing another culture, and the film Black Orpheus had a huge influence on me. So obviously and most of these films are actually Black Orpheus is not in black and white, it's color, but it was incredible. So this has stirred up something in me that I wasn't educated about, and it was sort of alien, but it was photography, but I felt very pulled towards it. And so, when I finally lifted up my head from the guitar and decided to get a camera and have a go at it, it was very natural for me. I think the emotional thing was already in me about photography, and so I was pulled towards it, and didn't put it down 1 week later. I just kept going.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously this is not the same as a camera, but what do you think about, do you take pictures with your phone?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, and occasionally someone will, one will make it into something more important, let's
Yeah.
say, or more serious, that shot with the Leica. Mostly I shoot with the Leica, but of course, hello,
Right.
too.
Yeah.
I mean, and it is incredible that you can, I mean, the pictures are of high quality, and
Yeah.
what are you going to do? I mean, I'll go out on tour. I'm sure I'll shoot a hell of a lot of pictures on my iPhone, but
Yeah.
I'm looking at my bag over in the corner there. I'm taking the Leica, and for me, I mean, obviously, I'm really looking forward to being on stage and playing, and I'm practicing a lot. But I see this as a great opportunity to go out and get some new photographs that back in the US. It's a long time since I personally have toured the US.
Mhm.
I mean, I was before the pandemic. I was doing this show. We got through 10 or 11 shows. Happily, it ended at the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, which was a sort of nice ender. That was
Yeah.
pretty swanky. And then the pandemic took over, and that was the end of that. And so here we come back 3 years later, and we're all just starting to arrive back. I'm sure a lot of people are going out now. It seems
Yeah.
safe
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
little bit anxious about it, but you know.
Yeah, I think that's sort of uh, funny that you meant that. It's almost like the tours is the photography. You're going on tour to take pictures and you're playing music on the side, kind of. I mean, you're not really saying that, but
But you
that's what
could
it's turning out
reverse
to be,
it,
right?
yeah. Well, I mean, it is a little bit of that. I mean, this tour, I mean, we're just going to do, I think it's about 9 days on the East Coast. It's almost
Yeah,
every show every night. So, you know, I mean, literally, the reality is the gear went 2 days ago, and I've got like a little rig to play something, and I've got the pictures up on the wall. So we're sort of like hobbling now because the real equipment's gone.
yeah,
So somewhere near Boston, and it's very specific. They're all sort of what I wanted to play was, I don't want to play clubs or anything like that, and we
yeah.
can't go to anything much bigger. So they're all sort of medium-sized theaters. Beautiful. I've looked them all up. They're all these bijou theaters. That's exactly the right place for me
Yeah.
to do this, I think, at this stage, and we'll see how it goes. You know, I mean, you know, I play all these different pieces. There's solo guitar pieces. I do a Brazilian section. There's police stuff, and there's a wonderful police section at the end with an incredible collage of the stuff that I shot in the 80s
Yeah.
on the road in America. Not only the three of us in the band, but all sorts of scenes from, you know, I don't know, places like Tennessee and all sorts of rural America. It looked pretty different then than it does now. So they've almost become antiques, you know, but
Right.
it was me shooting them.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, I've yeah, you know, you can only practice this stuff to a point. You know, it's all rehearsed. We know what we're doing. It's pretty technical. I mean, the guys operating projector, the sounds have got to come up, the backing tracks have got to come up. So we hope everything works because it's all fairly delicate.
Yeah.
And you know, then I think the next developmental stage is actually being on stage and being in front of the audience. So I
Yeah.
talk as well, big mouth, and I talk to the audience a lot. People are really interested. And you know, we'll see how it goes. But I expect to do that first little run. Then we've got sort of a month off, a few weeks off, with 2 gigs in Texas in the middle. But I think that's going to, well, hopefully we've got it right. But of course, the live situation teaches you everything.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
So I've seen pictures of you and videos of you recently, and like if you were a teacher or a bank executive, you would have retired by now. But what I love when I see pictures of you and videos of you current day is, and I'm surprised you don't have a guitar in your hand right now. Like everything I see you, it's there it is, right?
What was that you just said?
Right. Um, and so it's really, it's
Yeah, I'm
not a,
surrounded. I can see about 8 in this room.
so it's really not a job to you that you retire from. It's always attached.
Never
It's part
been
of
a
your
job.
body. It's part of your
No,
body at this point.
I feel very fortunate to have, you know, been a guitarist all my life, and I've really not really done any. I mean, I've written books, I've had a movie, I've done a lot of other artistic pursuit. Obviously, many photograph exhibitions. You know, I'm an interested person. You know, the guitar is the thing that's carried me throughout all this. You know, being in a great band. It's always, you know, I'm a musician. I feel like I was born to play music, and that's the calling.
Yeah.
And doing photography, you know, I wouldn't give up music to do photography.
Yeah.
There was a point, I think, when I thought, oh man, you know, I wavered slightly, but no, music is the highest of the arts, and I'm absolutely a musician, and I love playing music. I'll keep going until I just can't do it anymore. I don't see that coming because I'm actually in extremely good shape. I've been very fortunate. Nothing wrong with me. I'm still here.
That's great.
You know, lucky.
Yeah.
You know, got a lot of people my age are like, and they're already gone. You know,
Yeah.
thank you, Lord.
Yeah. So like I said, I read the autobiography. The first thing that stuck out, and my real last name is Midnight. And so I know like your first band was the Midnighters. Is that right?
No,
Oh,
that's not right. I don't know where you got that from. Your
w-
name is Midnight.
it's German. It was Midnacht at some point, and then it got
Oh, that's
translated.
great. What a great name.
Yeah.
Well, you're a lucky guy.
But didn't you have a band that had Midnight in the name? Midnight or something like that? I
No,
thought.
I was in something called the very first band I was in, which I put together with a mate of mine from our town in England. It's called the Big Roll Band.
Okay. Huh.
Then there we had an acid rock band called Dantalion's Chariot.
Okay.
And I was in the Animals. and blah blah blah. And then I was in the
Yeah.
soft machine. I was a guy, trying to be a band.
Yeah, yeah. And that's amazing to me as well, is that really the book illustrated that you were part of like sort of the birth of modern rock and roll. I mean, the people that were just friends of yours that you played with, that you did shows with, that you just hung out with is really
Mm,
like you go back and you read those names and it's mind blowing. But I'm sure at the
mm.
time, I mean, I'm sure at the time it probably felt mind blowing because they were such great, like the Hendrixes and the Claptons and the
Yeah, that's
Robert
what
Fripps. Um,
that's where I'm from, and that's who I grew up with. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. When I finished the book, I went back to the front page to see what year it was written. It was 2006. So I'm imagining, and I don't know if have you written another autobiography, like a sequel to this?
Well, I have another book. It's just time to get to it, but I've done the writing. I've got a book. We'll see. I think it'll probably come out next year now because of the way waves of publishing and all
Sure.
that. It's drives me nuts. It's called The Trouble with Guitars. And so this book, the idea of it is I took 30 guitars, and throughout my life, it's like my life is defined by guitar, which guitar I had at that time. Oh, that was the white Strat period. That was the custom SG. Oh, this is the Les Paul period. So it's really like sections of the life defined by which particular, specific guitar I had. So I thought about it and I came up with a list of 30, that I had stories about. And so yeah, my concept of the book is, there'll be a picture of the guitar and some associated guitars. Then I've got all this story with it, of course, which involves women, troubles, poverty, riches, all the angst. Yeah, basically each one is loaded with problems. So that's what the writing's about.
I love that. That's great. I
Yeah,
can't wait to read it.
yeah.
Uh, I know you've been musically so prolific post police stuff. I'm wondering, and maybe this is public knowledge, but
Mm.
I have to imagine that at various points, maybe even right after the police broke up, that you were in high demand. Like, were there opportunities that maybe you turned down, or that people wanted you to
Yeah,
join already established bands?
yeah. I did turn one incredibly famous singer down. That was probably a real mistake because it would have been a stadium filler immediately. I won't even say his name because
Yeah,
uh, yeah, I do regret that. It was pretty stupid.
yeah,
I was too sort of gone, yeah, to because we were the biggest band in the world. We were all
yeah.
very famous. I was probably the most famous guitar player in the world at that point, probably the highest paid. Uh, and so it's like it was like a wall of stuff coming to you all the time. Mind bending. Hard to keep your feet on the ground and think straight about anything. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So these days,
pass through it.
I saw the Call the Police. Is that a project? Is it a recording? Is it a tour thing? Like what
Yeah,
is
it
Call the
is. Well,
Police?
it's a band, it's a sort of thing that sort of casually came together, and it's a wonderful band. We're based, I like to say we are based in Rio. That sounds great to me because I'm not actually based in Rio. I've been working with a guy down there since '95. I've done every kind of music down there for years. I go there every year and never miss a year. And in the later years, I went down to Rio and was sitting with him. He said, "Oh, I've got a guy I'm working with now, or managing," and he was a bass player, and his name was Rodrigo Santos, and he was from the band uh, Baron Maveo, which means Red Baron. They're
Mm.
very famous, big hits, and we thought, "Oh, yeah, man, very cool guy. I really liked him." So he was a singer bass player. Anyway, so we started doing some stuff together, and he had another drummer that we worked with, and we did a couple of little gigs around Rio to sort of try it out, and we did a couple of police songs. Anyway, fast forward, we started to see the potential of this, and the guy that worked with us, the manager, got in another. He said, "Yeah, this drummer's great, but no one knows who he is." And he got another drummer in from the Paralamas. They're incredibly famous in South America. So he's a star. They had loads of number ones, and his name is Joao Baroni. And so we had the three of us. And what happened is it all got down to let's just do Hits the Police because we
Sure.
were fantastically popular in South America. and we had all these #1 records. So we built a set list of about 15 songs, and that's the band. And we put it together. And Rodrigo's a wonderful singer. I absolutely love it all. And he's a great bass. He's great to be on stage with. They're really good guys.
Yeah.
I was never expecting to do a sort of knockoff of the Police, because
Yeah.
I thought it's sacred. You can't do it. You can't do it. And but we did do it, and it turned out to be a huge success. You know, we sell out everywhere we go.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do it during the pandemic
Sure.
for all the obvious reasons. But we did do a tour this year we played some countries in South America, and we got to do 2 shows in Mexico at the end of September.
Oh, nice.
Well, anyway, that was a total visa fuck up. We were supposed to play Mexico. We went to the airport. We were in Panama, and we played in Panama the night before. It was great. And we went to the airport in the morning. Their visas were wrong. The Mexican government changed the visas. So I ended up in Mexico City on my own, which was all right. The only problem was I'd invited my kids, my family, to come down. There was about 8 of them. They all got on the plane. I couldn't tell them in time. They all turned up in Mexico City. There was no gig. Anyway, we're going back at the end of September to fulfill those. And then I think we're going to play up in the northeast of Brazil. This is looking good in February, which is the sort of the winter there, although there's only one season. It's just whatever it is.
Right.
Probably, in Recife. And then we'll probably, it looks like now the drummer can play late July and August. So I really enjoy it with them, because it's great guys, great fun. The band is absolutely kick-ass band. It's great. Really, they're great players, so, and for me, it's very loose. So huge amount of guitar solos.
Yeah. And you do a lot of instrumental stuff. Recently, you've been releasing stuff, and you always kind of have. But what about
my records are,
yeah. What about
compositional.
like in terms of rock music? Like I have the Circa Zero record.
Oh yeah,
which is great. Do you enjoy flexing that rock muscle on occasion?
Yeah, when we get into it, we've got the right people. Sure. I mean, I really enjoyed making that record. I think that's some great songs. That should have been a huge hit.
I agree.
It's got great songs on it. I mean, that took 2 years to make, and I was with that guy Rob, and I thought we'd really get something. And I think we just got the wrong management and the wrong record company, and I don't think they even exist anymore. So it just got placed in the wrong hands. It just didn't happen, and incredible for a record at that level. I thought that was the best rock record I ever made.
Yeah, you're right. There's some great, I think Levitation and Gamma Ray are like my 2 favorite songs on that record. Yeah.
So I had to move on fast. I didn't want to get bogged down in that. I mean, we did try, and we did a couple of shows. It could have been a huge band, but well, anyway, moved on.
I know probably every single interview ask about the Police, and I don't want to ask a whole lot other than to ask you, is it post Police, is it like an ex-girlfriend? Like, do you pay attention to what those guys are putting out? Or is it more like somebody will tell you, oh, there's a new Sting record out. Oh, Stewart put something out. Or are you paying attention? Are you going out and buying the stuff the day it comes out and going home and listening to it?
No, I mean, no. Well, both Stuart and I live in Los Angeles. We're not very far from one another. We have the same manager. So there's a connection. And of course, the other thing is that we're like what they call a brand, blah, blah, blah. We sell a lot of records. We have Every Breath You Take. It's the most played song of all time. And that's my guitar playing. And that's 1.5 billion, I think, at this point. And no one can touch us. It's the most played song in America, on American radio, or anywhere, I think.
Yes.
So, so the brand, as it were, goes on, and there's always like, we're going to bring this out, and it's going to be a special package and blah, blah, blah. So it's just business, and we get to oversee it all. So it's just a sort of another sort of substrata of your life, but I'm not like, I'm much more wrapped up in my own creativity. And, I was very pleased to get this new photo book out and going on tour, and, I've got some more exhibitions coming up in Japan, which is sort of exciting. Yeah, that's what occupies my mind. And also, of course, writing new music. And I'm very much due to make a new album, I think, when I can, hopefully this year.
Yeah.
So, the police is just a thing that's there all the time,
Yeah.
it, not in any acrimonious way, we're all lucky, and it just continues on. It's one of the great classic bands, if you will.
You have I'm in Columbus, Ohio, and you've got an Ohio date at in Kent, Ohio in October. And I'm just interested. I'm always want to know like how much money I need to bring. And so tell me a little bit about, like, do you know what the merchandise, what people are
Well,
going to be able to
yeah,
buy?
we'll see. I mean, it's slightly in flux. I mean, obviously, they sell things like T-shirts.
Yeah.
We're going to get my book fretted and moaning there. I think they're going to make a special publication to take on tour. I mean,
Okay.
that literally means going from a sort of deluxe edition or a hardback to a softback.
Yeah. Yeah.
The guy can actually get it published in the US and get it in time to go on tour. So there's, I'm not sure, I mean, I'm not all that bothered about it. I mean, but
Yeah.
I know there's somebody coming with us on the tour to just do merchandising,
Yeah.
those T-shirts and books at the moment. There may be, I mean, he's so as dumb as guitar picks. I mean, with my name on it, I don't.
What kind of what size crew do you have for this tour?
Well, this is going to be pretty small to begin with. I'm a little bit anxious about it. There's four of us.
Oh wow.
But I think we're gonna, yeah. Well, it's me and my guy, and then there's the production guy, and there's a girl that's coming to do the merchandising. I think it's a bit lightweight, but we'll see. I mean, we're going to do this first sort of 8 shows, and I think we'll have so much more information. It's the
Yeah. Yeah.
usual thing. We're in the studio. That's always the same. You're in the studio, practice, practice, practice. Got it right. Yeah, okay. Do one show, and you go, everything's wrong. I've got to start this.
Yeah.
I keep saying to the guy that worked, Dennis, who works with me, like, okay, this is where we got to. When we come back 10 days from now, we're going to have a whole lot more information.
Yeah.
That's the way it goes, I mean, it takes a few to get it together, and then it's going to get slicker. I'm going to get this shit down, and we're going to be like, it's going to be really good.
Yeah.
But that's what it takes. Yeah. It was just the same with the band. You're going out and you're playing your 10 songs, and they're not that good at the beginning. You see the band 6 months later, and man, you guys got really good. Yeah. Always the same with the police, no different.
Yeah.
To take practice.
Well,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm really looking forward to seeing you in October.
So where is it? Columbia? Yeah.
Well, I'm in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
But that's in Kent, Ohio. There's a university there. It's
Yeah, I know.
about a
Kent,
2 hour
very
drive,
famous.
about a 2 hour drive from Columbus.
Yeah, I know all about Kent. Yeah.
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 And I mean, I've been doing this as long as I have because I love storytelling. And so I'm really anxious. I love music and storytelling. So I'm anxious to see you play, see the pictures, hear you play, and then hear the stories about the song.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm very
Yeah,
excited about
that's
it.
one of the last things we're going to do. I've got to figure out which ones to do. Yeah.
Yeah. Very
You
good. Well, I
know,
think oh, sorry.
well, it's a little weird little thing in all the setup. I guess the way I'm going to do that is read it from an iPad.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh man, 63. Oh fuck, I can't find. These are things you have to work out. You go press the button and there's story, and they go, well, yeah, and so on and so forth.
That's hilarious. That is funny. Technology, right?
Yeah, well, that's what we can do now. Yeah.
Yes. Well, it has been a thrill, an honor, a pleasure, and
Thank
every
you,
other
man.
word I can throw at it. So I will
All
be
right.
looking forward to seeing you in a few months.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. All right. Bye-bye.
Cheers. All best. Ciao.